This coordination was already a hard limit, anything further would just be a slight enhancement. He had understood that, the explosive fist arts, White Cloud secret method, and White Cloud combat technique, were all fundamental parts, like a mammoth's limbs. Training in these martial art techniques was like honing the mammoth's limbs. The stronger they were, the better the foundation, and the stronger the integrated effect of the secret mammoth technique. The purpose of the secret mammoth technique was to integrate all these together, to form a real large mammoth. Different people formed different mammoth characteristics. This was dependent on physical quality, and the level of explosive fist arts or White Cloud's secret method they have trained up till. Garen's own White Cloud secret method had reached an unprecedented level, his explosive fist arts had reached an intermediate level, a minor achievement, his White Cloud combat technique was intermediate too. Coupled with the strong physical quality that he was most proud of, a physical quality that was beyond the physical limits of an average person, everything combined, the secret martial art helped Garen attain a terrifyingly phenomenal level. This was just a third-rate secret martial art technique, but had been practiced by him to an unfathomable level with his mysterious special ability. Other practitioners from White Cloud Gate would not practice secret martial arts on such solid foundation. Basically they would start practicing it once they had a good foundation of the rest. After all, explosive fist arts and the White Cloud secret method were time-consuming martial art techniques. If they only started practicing secret martial arts after attaining a certain achievement in those, it would probably not happen even when the practitioner reached 40 years old. Even the best talents would only be able to attain intermediate levels in explosive fist arts and the White Cloud secret method. With their White Cloud secret method limited to intermediate level, not even attaining advanced level, there would be too big a difference with Garen's unparalleled achieved level. No one knew the changes that an achieved White Cloud secret method integrated into secret mammoth technique would bring about. The role of White Cloud secret method in secret martial arts was like the heart of the mammoth, consolidating the power and explosive force of the entire body. Garen wasn't even sure what stage he was at. He just knew that he was stronger than before, stronger than when he went to the Golden Hoop meet. He rushed towards the previous tournament venue along the way he came from. "Where is Master now?" he asked as he walked. After the next round as the final round to determine the top 10, Master should be here to watch, Colin explained simply. He should be with the masters of other dojos and sects now. Garen nodded and didn't say more. The incident with the note still weighed heavy on him. He didn't know who passed him the note, but a trace of coldness flashed across his face. Garen sped up. All along the corridor, every disciple from the southern 12 gates would give way to him out of respect. "I heard that senior brother Garen has been rated as the first person below the previous top 10. And it was senior brother Andrella who had personally evaluated this. Senior brother Garen, together with senior brother Tenstar Ni, have been regarded as the senior brothers with the most potential to enter top 10. The next round is the finals. Let's go get a place, quick." The whispers of trainees would reach their ears from time to time. Garen turned a deaf ear to all of it, but the faces of the other three gradually shone with a trace of pride. White Cloud Gate had never been bestowed such an honor. As a small, third-rate sect, its martial art methods were limited. Even extremely talented disciples have never managed to reach such a level. Every disciple could only participate for 3 times consecutively, not to mention there was an age limit. Eldest senior sister and second senior brother had passed the age limit long ago, and even they were far from attaining this degree of evaluation when they participated. Now that Garen had achieved it, the three of them walked with their heads held high, no longer the same as before. After he passed through a few corridors, Garen strode into his initial tournament venue. In the packed room, someone was already waiting for him in the white ring. A proportionately muscular youth with a tall flat-top haircut resembling a broom. He had white hand wraps on both his hands, and a rebellious look on his face. His upper body was bare, and he was wearing white shorts. He had a shoe only on his right foot. It looked very odd. Garen subconsciously looked at his feet. When the youth shifted his right foot, Garen realized that he wasn't actually wearing a shoe, but instead there was a black shoe-like motif painted onto his foot. Both his feet were bare. "Senior brother Garen, please step into the ring," the referee shouted. The tournament venue quieted down almost immediately. The crowd gave way to Garen and the other three. Most of them looked expectantly at him, only a few stared rudely. Garen strode to the side of the ring, somersaulted into it then stood up. Order of the Iron Fist, Carlos. The youth had a hand in front of his body, and another clenched, resting at his waist. He adopted the horse stance, and put on a solemn posture. Garen of White Cloud Gate. Garen glanced at his opponent, not even bothering to adopt a stance. He looked sideways at the referee and asked, "Can we begin?" "Begin." The referee rung the bell definitively, then somersaulted out of the ring. This wasn't child's play. Duels at this level were considered to be between experts. A referee like him could be accidentally injured if he didn't take care. As the referee's voice faded, Carlos threw a fierce punch which arced to hit the right side of Garen's face. The few-meter gap between the both of them was closed by him in one stride. His fist pierced the right side of Garen's face like a sickle. Due to the extreme speed, only a trace of a shadow could be seen, like the sharp, curved shadow of a sickle blade. How fast! Garen was stunned. He barely managed to lift his elbow. He could feel a gust from the force of the punch ripple the skin of his face. Bang! The two were interlocked in a fist fight. Garen blocked with his right arm and threw his left arm out towards his opponent's face. His arm flung out like a spring. He was using a standard shot form. The explosive force of the punch made a whoosh sound. Clap. Another crisp sound could be heard. All their attacks were blocked by the other. Within less than half a meter from each other, Carlos' spike-like elbow attacked Garen like a storm. Garen blocked his crucial body parts. The rest of the attacks hit his muscles and caused them to quiver violently, but the effect soon passed. His skin merely reddened slightly. A very frequent tap 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 sound like raindrops could be heard. Carlos looked grimmer. Even his vibration couldn't penetrate the toughness of Garen's body hardening technique. It merely caused a reddening of the skin. This was something he didn't expect. But to be able to reach this stage in the tournament, his opponent would naturally not be a weakling. He was already mentally prepared. Abrupt kick, Carlos roared. His right leg shot up and headed straight for Garen's chin. Its swiftness transformed it into a gray shadow. Wham! Garen didn't manage to react in time, and got hit squarely by the kick. His head jerked backwards from the impact. But with a sly grin, he threw caution to the wind and took the opportunity to grab his opponent's shoulder with his right arm, and tripped Carlos with a foot. There was a muffled thud, and Carlos was held down by him in the ring. Garen didn't hesitate as he followed through with a downward elbow smash. There was a loud crash. A small dent appeared on the ring. Carlos rolled over and dodged the attack. He rolled a few meters away from Garen and stood up again. He looked fearfully at the dent on the ground. These rings were made from high-strength, special-grade cement. Apart from a high base cost, this brought with it an extremely tough rigidity, almost 10 times that of average cement. Now it had been easily damaged under Garen's strength. If I didn't dodge that second move. He let out a low cough. Phlegm surged up his throat, and he felt bursts of piercing pain in his back. He turned sideways to spit out the phlegm. It was blood sputum. The blood-red goop stuck onto the floor of the ring with a flop. Good fight. When he got excited, Carlos' accent immediately turned into a rhotic tone. Garen couldn't make out the origin of the accent. You're not too bad either. Garen gave a soft laugh, and temporarily put aside all his worries. Again. He stomped his foot, angled his elbow forward and dashed towards his opponent like a drill. His left elbow complemented the dash form. Coupled with the impact of the step form, the integrated use of the 4 major forms was his true transformation after receiving the secret martial art. This was the same maneuver he used to defeat the stout youth earlier. When he rushed to the front of Carlos, the latter gave a cunning smile, then suddenly crouched down and kicked Garen's lower body. Whack! Carlos caught Garen squarely in the calf, but his expression immediately changed as he attempted to roll over and dodge, but it was too late. His opponent's calf was anchored like an iron wall. This was the result of a marked difference in strength. Moreover, his straight kick did not actually do his opponent any harm, not even a scratch. Was this a bad joke? Usually the power of this kick was enough to rupture 2 sandbags arranged successively. He saw Garen draw his hands to his chest and do an elbow drop, collapsing on him like a mountain. It was too late. Carlos did not hesitate. He made a ruthless decision. Abrupt kick. Both his legs suddenly kicked upwards. The tips of his feet were like sharp spikes and stabbed Garen's chest and abdomen one after the other. Wham! The two collided hard into each other, the whole ring quaked from the impact. The entire tournament ground suddenly fell into complete silence. Garen slowly got up and looked at Carlos, who was coughing up blood. "No matter how fast you are, how fast your rhythm, I just need to hit you once." It was only then that the referee rushed into the ring to strike the bell. "The winner is Garen of White Cloud Gate." Hurrah! The audience burst into a loud cheer. The whole tournament venue instantly became rowdy. Most of the disciples from Southern 12 Gates were over the moon. Garen shook his head as he watched the medical team carry the injured Carlos away. He looked down at his own chest. 2 red spots were clearly visible, and his skin was slightly swollen. He was indeed an expert who has mastered vibration, much more lethal than an average person. Any stronger and he would have broken my defense. The next venue is the finals tournament ground, that is the open tournament ground outside. It starts tomorrow morning, the referee on the side cautiously announced. Today's preliminaries have ended. Tomorrow will be the finals to determine the top 10. That is to say, I can go back and rest now? Garen asked. Yes. Garen leapt out of the ring. His white clothing was torn and ragged. Carlos' kicks earlier had shredded his clothes at his chest. He simply pulled off his top and walked out of the room baring his upper body. "Eldest senior brother, you're finally in the finals." Colin, Carrie and the rest were elated. At such a critical moment, where could Rimrador have gone? Simon moaned softly. "That guy isn't here yet." Garen frowned. "It's fine, forget him. You guys head straight back to rest. I'll take a shower first." "Yes, senior brother." The 3 of them replied respectfully at once. Their impression of Garen now was higher and more authoritative than ever. Garen nodded, and walked towards the left side of the corridor alone. Every now and then there would be some disciples from Southern 12 Gates looking at him in admiration, and give way to him. He had defeated Carlos from the Order of the Iron Fist. His reputation immediately reached a prominent height. The Order of the Iron Fist ranked 9th, but Carlos was indeed a top 10 contender the last time. Now that he had been defeated, this meant that Garen could benefit from his detriment to advance further. Under the guidance of an attendant, Garen returned to the accommodation arranged by his sect. He entered his own independent room, took off his clothes and walked into the shower. He shut the door and gently turned the faucet on. Whoosh! Cold water rushed out first, but soon the water warmed and steam slowly filled the bathroom. Garen stood under the faucet, letting the warm water cascade down from his shoulders. The tense muscles and skin around his body gradually relaxed under the warmth. Hot water drenched his back and flowed to his feet, washing away most of the sweat and stains. He wiped his face with his hands and started recalling the developments in the tournament so far. Each of his 4 opponents had their strengths and weaknesses. The strongest opponent was the last one, Carlos from the Order of the Iron Fist. His true strength was comparable to Golden Hoop number 9. Now that I think of it, Carlos and eldest senior sister share a similar fighting style, both aim to kill. But compared to eldest senior sister at her current level, he is slightly weaker. Nevertheless, the difference is marginal. Garen contrasted Carlos with the standard of the eldest senior sister that trained with him from his memory, and carefully evaluated it. Since receiving the secret martial art, even he himself was unclear what level his true strength had progressed to. He needed a clear comparison. Eldest senior sister would not have exhibited her full strength when she was training with me. Based on several daily details, I estimate that she is slightly stronger than Carlos. I could spar with eldest senior sister when I am back to find out the current extent of my true strength. But why didn't eldest senior sister and the others participate in the ranking tournaments? If they were here, White Cloud Gate wouldn't be in too low a ranking. Garen's mind kept recalling the actions, strength and other details of second senior brother and eldest senior sister when they were in training. Ever since he received the secret martial art, his perspective had completely changed. His strength and martial art techniques have been coherently amalgamated to reach a stage where he could organically combine moves. Naturally, his perspective of former opponents had evolved, and he would notice more than he did before. Eldest senior sister and Carlos should be on the same level, and second senior brother is slightly weaker. Third senior brother is on the same level as the guy from Holy Fist Gate in the first round. He's really too lazy. As he thought about third senior brother Joshua, he couldn't help but shake his head slightly. Practicing martial arts once every 3 days could still be considered diligent. No matter how talented he was, he wouldn't be able to accomplish anything if he wasted his talent like that. He looked down and gently clenched his fists. After a few duels, Garen could clearly feel that he had become more powerful. There were no specific enhancements to his strength and speed, but his martial arts had become more powerful. He could spontaneously apply the 4 major forms, they had been ingrained as a natural instinct. He could easily integrate the strength of his entire body in the execution of every move. Even though the strength points in the attribute pain remain unchanged, Garen could feel that his true strength had increased by more than 1-fold. He could probably achieve 500 pounds of explosive force in situ. If it were coupled with the impact of a run-up, the results would be unimaginable even to him. It would probably reach half a ton. Garen tilted his head upwards and allowed the hot water to directly drench his hair. What a shame. This seems to be the maximum extent of the secret martial art of White Cloud Gate. I could still progress further, but the secret martial art has peaked. Ding dong. Garen, are you there? The voice of Master Fei Beiyun came from outside the door. I am, Master, Garen hurriedly replied. I'm in the shower, I'll be out in a minute. He quickly turned off the tap, dried himself, hastily dressed, then pushed the door open to walk out. The door clicked as it opened. Fei Beiyun stood at the entrance clad in black silk clothing. He was wearing a round black hat and small sunglasses. Coupled with his handlebar mustache, he made an oddly delightful sight. He let himself into the room and sat down. Fei Beiyun stared fervently at his disciple, who closed the door and sat down. Garen, I was chatting to some old friends and heard that you won the preliminaries and entered the finals. You've really done me proud this time. His face shone with glee. I didn't expect your true strength to develop so fast after you've received the secret martial art. This kind of talent, looks like I was right in selecting you to be a last disciple. Well done. Fei Beiyun patted Garen's shoulders hard. I will meet whatever request you have when we get back. Master, you flatter me. Garen was somewhat embarrassed by his master's praises. I am clear about what is and isn't flattery. For you to be able to reach this level in a year, no one would have expected it. Your secret mammoth technique should be at the mammoth level, correct? Fei Beiyun lowered his voice and asked. Garen nodded. This was not something to hide. The secret mammoth technique purely relied on perception and talent. It was different from White Cloud's secret method and explosive fist arts. Those were fundamentals which required hard work. Indeed, the more he looked at him, the more Fei Beiyun liked Garen. The smile that he suppressed to maintain his dignified image as a teacher couldn't be contained any longer. His wrinkly face grinned from ear to ear. Any injuries from the tournaments? None, Garen replied truthfully. Fei Beiyun suddenly stood up and looked at his disciple Garen, shook his head slightly and said, I can't believe that a last disciple that I, Fei Beiyun, have admitted in my sunset years, would be such a fascinating character like you. There is still hope for White Cloud Gate. He hesitated, looked at the confused Garen, then finally made his decision. He reached a hand into his inner pocket and took out a round indigo metal container and gently opened it. The metal box was merely the size of a palm, but there was another small black box within it. Fei Beiyun opened that too. On a piece of black silk inside the innermost box was a square black piece of paste, even on all sides. It looked insignificant. Fei Beiyun looked at it and let out a long sigh. Here, eat this. He put it in front of Garen. What is this? Garen stared curiously at the squarish paste. It looked like hardened black toothpaste. Why are you asking so many questions? I won't harm you. Eat, Fei Beiyun urged impatiently. Oh, Garen picked the square paste up and put it straight into his mouth. He chewed a few times. It was sweet and sour, like eating a fruit roll-up. He swallowed it whole. Suddenly, from his mouth to his throat down till his stomach, any esophageal tract that the paste passed through, he experienced a cool, refreshing feeling. All right, rest well. Good luck in the finals tomorrow. Fei Beiyun cleared his throat, patted Garen's shoulder and said as if nothing had happened. I'll be off. You take care and condition yourself. Yes, master. Garen nodded respectfully. At this, Fei Beiyun gave a contented nod, put his hands behind his back and sauntered out of the room. When he was a short distance away from the room, he slowly turned back to look at the closed room door. Blood boil pill. Such miracle drugs are better utilized on youths. Don't disappoint me, Garen. He turned around and slowly walked to the far end of the corridor, and soon disappeared around the corner. In that instant, even his silhouette seemed to have aged a lot. At the other end of the corridor outside Garen's room, two other old men appeared. One had a full red beard, and the other had a pale and clean-shaven face, with skin covered in wrinkles and liver spots. I can't believe Fei Beiyun gave the blood boil pill to that kid. That was his life's work. In order to collect all the herbs and ingredients, he almost lost his life several times. That is the White Cloud Gate miracle drug, able to cure internal injuries and prolong life, which he specifically intended for self-consumption in preparation for breaking through into the next stage. Now he's actually given it to this young fellow. The red-bearded old man lamented as he recalled Fei Beiyun's silhouette walking away. He gently shook his head. Without the blood boil pill, old Fei won't live for long. The accumulation of a lifetime of hard work, all wagered on one disciple. Old Fei is really... The other old man didn't know how to continue. Life's like that, everything is impermanent. Let's go. The matter regarding Eastern Saintcloth awaits, we have to sort it out soon. This kid doesn't let us have a moment of peace. He's getting into trouble wherever he goes. The red-bearded old man sighed, and turned around to walk away. The pale-faced old man took a look at Garen's room door, inexplicably let out a sigh, and turned to leave as well. In the room, Garen was stunned to see the attribute skills pane in the bottom of his vision undergo a slow but sure change. Under the skills column, for secret mammoth technique, the word, achieved, after it gradually blurred, and slowly transformed into a new word, explosive. But the wording was translucent, as if it hadn't fully crystallized. What's this? Garen was shocked. He immediately thought of the thing that tasted like fruit roll-up that his master had given him. Could it be some kind of secret medicine? What kind of secret medicine has such a powerful effect? The word, explosive, after, secret mammoth technique, floated about and looked unstable, as if it wouldn't be completed anytime soon. Garen didn't know what would happen. He planned to observe first. This change seemed to be incomplete, maybe it would fully stabilize later. After going out for dinner and giving some instructions to a few disciples, he went straight back to his room. He waited until it was dark outside, changed, and asked an attendant for directions to leave the Celestial Circle Gate grounds. He went around the perimeter of the grounds and walked to the edge of a deserted forest. Garen finally saw a figure in black cloak standing under the shadow of the woods. He stood silently with his back to Garen. "You passed me the note." Confident about his true strength, Garen approached him and asked loudly. Whoosh! The figure dashed straight into the woods without replying. "Don't think you can escape." Garen scorned and trailed closely behind. The bushes and tree leaves rustled as he ran across. They were sprinting one after the other in the dark forest, but Garen didn't manage to catch up with him. Soon, both of them dashed out of the woods. They had reached the edge of the forest, and suddenly he saw a huge low stone wall in front of him. 4 skulls were mysteriously engraved onto the stone wall, side by side. The sound of the wind whistling could faintly be heard coming from the black eye sockets and mouths. Each skull was 10-odd meters tall. It was extremely spectacular. A wooden suspension bridge linked the forest area to the open area below the stone wall. The figure in black rushed onto the bridge without hesitating. Garen followed, and ran past the bridge quickly. An ominous cold current of air constantly poured out from the dark abyss below. The bridge swayed side to side as they ran past, and both stopped at the lowest open area below the skull stone wall. "Who are you?" Garen stared fixedly at the figure in black. The figure in black slowly turned around, and revealed a handsome, apathetic face of a man. His skin was pale, there was almost no blush on his face. A few strands of long, black hair were vaguely exposed around the edges of his cloak. "Garen Lombard, the disciple of that foolish brother of mine." "Who are you?" Garen narrowed his eyes as a chill flashed across them. "Do you know how old man Gregor died?" "How he died?" The man calmly gazed at Garen. "I killed him with my bare hands." "And so you shall go to hell." Garen's eyes widened. A crater blasted open under his feet as he violently leapt towards the man. An explosive roar like a mammoth trumpet could vaguely be heard coming from behind him. Pong! Garen's arms stopped in front of the man's face as if an invisible wall completely blocked his attack. Pieces of broken, transparent debris shot out into the air in a crisp sound like a glass breaking. Garen's distorted face was completely red. He made a fierce inhale and, as his muscles instantly swelled up, he grew from 178 centimeters to over 2 meters tall. His arms resembled steel pincers, and he clamped his arms with all his might. Roar! In a cracking sound, the protective screen in front of the man shattered, and the dark blue arms that looked like steel beams scissored towards the man's neck. However, a strange thing happened. Garen's arms went through the man's neck without touching anything solid. What he cut through was an illusion, and on the ground not far from here, the man slowly appeared again. Brother taught you nothing, did he? He raised his chin, a trace of disappointment gleamed in his eyes. I've heard reports that you killed a few psychokinetics, and I thought that I would be able to see my brother's everlasting night stars. But you are just so worthless. Who are you calling worthless? Garen squinted his eyes, as he took a breath, his body inflated and deflated as if he was a real mammoth with huge lung capacity. His voice was so strong and deep that the words echoed and lingered in the air. He stood on the empty ground, his body had an unnatural purple-black color. Since you are worthless and incompetent, I will take back what belongs to my brother. The man reached out his hand and pointed at Garen. Shwoo! An invisible force crashed down on Garen like a clump of dried glue. Garen suddenly felt that his whole body was immobilized. Trying to chain me up. A sharp light flashed in his eyes, his arm and elbow stroked to the side with a loud crash. A crisp crackle resounded, and the man's expression changed. A mortal like you, he flicked his finger, another invisible force crashed onto Garen. Vroom! A giant spherical force field formed within 10 meters of Garen. The sand and weed on the ground, the daffodil seeds floated in the air, dust fell off from the stone walls, and a few dried leaves were blown airborne by the wind. Everything was frozen and restrained. Garen was standing in the center of the sphere, his muscles and veins jumped following his heartbeat. His heart was frantically pumping blood, and his veins seemed like they were about to explode. His vigorous heart was strongly resisting against the force field outside. His skin had tightened from the pressure, and his heart seemed like it was going to blow up. A faint painful feeling came from his left chest, his heart was failing under the influence of the force field. The massive force and pressure restrained his body, he could not even breathe, and his face was gradually turning purple and red. It's over. The man took back his index finger as he slowly walked towards Garen. Like an insect stuck in an amber, pathetic. Crackle. Suddenly, an astounded expression rose on his face. The layered levitation finger. You broke free. Boom. The force field around Garen was completely shattered, he felt his power and strength exploding like a volcano, his sight went black for a second, and a tearing pain came from his muscles. He lowered his head and saw the necklace hidden in his shirt slowly rising up, floating in front of his face. A line of words emerged on the necklace. Ain Gregoria, Third Life Ritual, Protection. Everlasting Night Star, it was on you this whole time. I didn't expect brother to leave this on you. The man instantly lifted his cloak, revealing his seaweed-like long and dark hair. His eyes were glued on the necklace. This necklace in the shape of an open book was exactly what he was looking for. A treasure like this is such a waste on you. His hand slowly reached out and gripped at Garen. Pong! Garen wanted to dodge, but as soon as he took 2 steps to the side, he felt everything go black as an invisible hand was choking him by the neck and prevented him from breathing. The difference in strength is too much. His heart was mixed with disappointment and rage. There is still hope. His hands tightly gripped the invisible hand on his neck, trying to break himself free. His attention turned to the skill pane at the bottom of his vision. Within the skill pane, behind the mammoth secret technique, the transparent and blurry word, explosive, was gradually turning opaque and clear. He had the feeling that when this mammoth secret technique finally reached the point of explosive, his body would have a dramatic change. His strength would increase by a large margin. Damn it, come on, faster. Drops of blood emerged on his face from under his skin from overusing his explosive force. At this moment, the man in the dark cloak was already standing in front of him. He reached out and grabbed the necklace. Everlasting night stars, it's mine now. Bam! Suddenly, a dark blue fist fiercely punched his right cheek. Garen finally broke free of the psychokinetic hand and swung a hard blow. Got you. He sprinted over, let out a frenzied roar, and kneed the man in the black cloak who was still staggering. Crackle! The sound of stone rupturing came from the man's body. He froze bending down. Garen gave him an uppercut, precisely smashing the location of his heart on the man's left chest. Pathetic. The man's voice came from somewhere. A massive force smashed into the back of Garen's head. Pong. Garen shuddered and froze. His vision went black, and his body felt limp and numb as he lost control of his body. The man in the dark cloak in front of him vanished, turning into a giant yellow stone. A mere hallucinogenic force field could put you on the brink of insanity. The man's voice came from behind. As soon as you met me, you were hallucinated and indulged in the illusions, then you were attacking the rocks like a madman, thinking I was the stone wall. Garen turned around with all his effort, staring at the man at the original spot he was standing on. Who are you? Me. The man chuckled, my name is Silfallen. Pitiful mortal, you don't even have the right to look at me straight. I have been behind you the whole time. Garen's vision blurred, he couldn't see the man again, and as he turned around, he saw the man standing right behind him, smiling at him with his cold expression. Bam! His eyes blurred again, he realized that he was still standing at the original spot, he had not moved an inch, his right fist was on top of his own chest, a strong pain came from his heart. In a low thud, he felt pain on the back of his head, Garen limped on the ground without any strength, a foot turned his face around to face the sky. Your master used to lick my boot and begged me to let you go, why don't you lick it as well? Maybe I could spare you if my mood got better, the man's voice came with a glimmer of a smile. The boot grinded on Garen's face, and the dirt and the grass mixed with some mud smeared all over his face. Roar! He suddenly pushed himself up and swung his fist at Silfallen. Bang! Garen was sent flying, hitting the stone wall. A few pieces of rubble shattered off the wall and landed on him. He could feel pain from every bone in his body, he was on the verge of collapse. The man slowly strutted next to him, he could only see a pair of dark gold linen boots. Die! Garen suddenly reached towards the man's feet. Bam! Another foot stomped on his waist, in the sound of a crackle, the impact broke one of his backbones. A worthless thing like you, I can't believe Gregor wasted his time on you, what an idiot. Talentless mortals, no matter how hard they try, are still just worthless. Garen could not speak anymore. I will die if this goes on. He felt himself getting weaker and weaker, he was exhausted and wanted to sleep. There's no other way, next time I see you, I will kill you. Garen stared at the blurry silhouette, his mind was calm. He memorized the man's handsome and cold face in his heart. He didn't expect to get outmatched like this, he was almost defenseless. From start to finish, he didn't even know if he had touched the opponent. He didn't know if he was a friend or foe and underestimated the gap between their strengths, this was his fault. Silfallen, this name was engraved into his heart. It was strange, he should be angry, but he only felt calm and peaceful. He had a feeling that the opponent did not really want to kill him. I have to gamble. He slowly closed his eyes, not that he could see anything anyway. His muscle started trembling and deflating. Soon he had returned to his normal body size. He slowly started a technique he had learned from the dojo's library, it was a simple technique that could allow someone to fake his death. This was the first time he used it, it was a simple technique, or one could call a trick. This trick was a part of the mammoth secret techniques included in the notebook. One of the predecessors experimented and invented this little trick to save his life. When he saw this trick that day, he memorized it just in case of a dangerous situation. It was a simple technique that adjusted one's breathing patterns. But he didn't expect to put it to use so soon. He imagined all his strength and blood to relax and rest, and gradually flowed into his brain and heart. Then he lost consciousness. Silfallen raised his head and gazed at the new moon, his foot was still on Garen's head. He's dead, he boringly kicked Garen again. His life was so fragile. He snatched everlasting night stars from Garen's neck and put it on his arms. Silfallen put on the cloak and hid into the dark night. Wind gusted by, lifting the hem of his cloak. He turned to glance at Garen one last time. His expression looked complicated. He turned around and jumped, his shadow disappeared into the forest like a bird. Right as he left, a blurry silhouette approached Garen. Silfallen, hee, you think you could trick everyone? After a long while, Garen slowly regained consciousness, everything looked blurry as if something was wrong with his eyes and could barely catch a glimpse of the moonlight with his right eye. Someone was pulling him by his hair, and he felt like he was being dragged on the floor. His vision was too blurry to see anything, after getting knocked unconscious, he felt as if his brain was disconnected with his body. SS's. He could vaguely see the dirt and the sand move below his legs. After a short while. Whop. He was thrown into a deep dirt hole. Universal nerve damage, 80% bones broken, cardiac rupture, internal bleeding. Poor guy, why did you have to piss off people from Immortal Palace? Which one of those crazy bastards isn't a psycho, yet inhumanly strong? An aged voice came from above the dirt hole. Young man, if you reincarnate in the next life, try to be a common folk, don't get involved in these things. The person exclaimed and started shoveling dirt into the hole. Garen laid quietly in the hole and felt his whole body being buried slowly. He didn't need to breathe, but he was paralyzed and could only feel a small part of his head. I did it, I tricked him. He waited until he was fully buried and hearing that the person burying him had walked away. He could faintly hear the hoot, hoot sounds from owls. Garen waited a bit more and slowly adjusted his breathing to lift the technique. Phew. He puffed out all the gas waste inside his lungs. His body still felt powerless. I should put the saved attribute point to use. He had 1 point of attribute unused, in case something like this happened. His focus landed on vitality, and after 3 seconds, the last attribute point was slowly added. His vitality went from 1.88 to 2.08. Vroom. In an instant, Garen felt a hot stream from his brain flowing down his spine into his back. The stream spread into every muscle in his limbs like a wildfire. The once weak body suddenly regained power. The warmth from his whole body felt comforting. He lifted his leg and kicked up. Blam. The still soft dirt above was kicked open. Garen quickly dusted off the dirt that covered his body. Even though he was seriously injured, he still had enough strength to clean up himself. Climbing out of the dirt and sitting on the grass, Garen looked around himself. The dim moonlight shined on the grass, and the shadow of the trees crisscrossed each other on the ground while the night wind stirred up the leaves. As Garen sat in the dirt and grass, he felt an itch in his nose and ears. He blew his nose hard, and a few ants flew out of his nostrils. Shit. He quickly found a small branch to clean his ears. A fat worm that looked like a maggot rolled out of his ear. This worm was stuck on the inside of his ears trying to bite off some of Garen's flesh, but his skin had been hardened by the explosive fist arts, so the worm could not even bite into the surface. In the end, it was squashed by Garen's hands. Sitting on the ground resting, Garen's body gradually recovered. He felt a little strange, there was a numbing feeling coming from his limbs. He distinctly remembered that his bones were mostly broken or fractured before he fainted. Other than a few ribs that were still not healed, they had almost recovered by themselves without the attribute point's help. He reached and stroked over some of the bones in his body. They are all joined. Is this the effect of Master's medicine? Even though his bones were set, some of them had grown together without aligning correctly. Garen broke them again, and bearing the pain, the hot stream from the attribute point quickly covered the broken bones and started healing. The strange thing was that his regeneration from the attribute point was usually not this strong, but now, it has grown a lot stronger for some reason. The broken bones had healed together after 20 minutes. This has to be the work of that medicine. Garen was sure the medicine caused the quickened healing. Looks like Master gave me something incredible. After resting for about 2 hours, the bones had fully grown together. As to his nerves, they were the first to recover. Garen stood up, dark and bloody sweat oozed out of his skin. It was the congested blood from his internal organs which, after the healing process, discharged from his skin. Sylphalin, he murmured the name. This was his first defeat, and a tragic one. Without the help of his master's medicine and his attribute point, he could still be seriously injured. He might have even suffocated under the ground. He started thinking about the words from the old man who had buried him. At that moment, within the technique pane at the bottom of his vision, the words, explosive, for his mammoth secret technique finally condensed and became opaque. A strange feeling emerged in his heart. It felt like blood formed a spherical and scorching hot blood ball in the center of his body. The ball radiated hot stream and warmed his body. Wherever the hot stream touched, brand new power emerged. His recovery speed had returned to normal, and his injuries had mostly healed. The Immortal Palace. Garen clenched his fists as he lowered his head. I will find you. He covered the hole on the ground again and strode out of the forest. After getting back to his room, it was already late in the night. Garen took a shower in the bathroom and changed into a white training suit. He found it odd that other disciples were not present. Garen drank a cup of water on the sofa and relaxed his muscles. He couldn't deal with Sylphalin at this time. He had to leave the thought in the back of his mind to improve himself, and one day he would be strong enough to go and find him. Even though he had a new breakthrough with the explosive mammoth secret technique, thinking about the opponent's mysterious moves, he still wasn't sure if he could beat Sylphalin. It was a type of power he had not seen before, and he needed more preparation. But at least, I know how the old man died. He reached in the collar. To his surprise, the necklace was still there, but the letters on it were gone. He snapped out of the gaze and got a little worried. Where did Colin and the others go this late in the night? Suddenly he heard some footsteps nearing. A group of men were approaching. Knock knock knock. Senior brother, are you there? Have you come back yet? I just heard the door shut, he might be back. Garen's expression turned cold. He rushed over to open the door. The door cracked open. Colin and Carrie were standing at the door. Colin had his fist raised, ready to knock again. He froze for a second as he saw Garen opening the door. Then, he could not hold his terror anymore. Say, senior brother, someone wounded master. Colin's voice choked up with tears. Carrie was also crying on the side without a word. What? Garen's eyes shook and asked, where is master now? He is at the tournament platform we used during the day. Come. Garen rushed out without closing the door, pulling the two disciples with him. Crack. Ah! Simon's arm got snapped by a young man with short and green hair. The arm was instantly bent backward and slumped on his back. The young man pushed Simon and kicked him on the ground. People from different sects surrounded the white platform in the night. The masters of Celestial Star Gate and Crimson Sand Sword sat next to each other, and watched the battle with their brows wrinkled. Whispers and chit-chat noise came from the crowd. White Cloud Gate is done, the master of Celestial Star Gate, Relexia, said. Fighting Association's president had historical conflicts with White Cloud Gate's master. To ask for a battle today, he is taking advantage of White Cloud Gate's distress. There are reasons. The master of Crimson Sand Sword was a handsome man with red hair. He held a glass of wine in his hand without drinking it, appreciating the beauty of the wine's color through the crystal clear glass. He had a faint smile on his face as if nothing mattered to him. White Cloud Gate's senior disciple Rosetta defected. Second disciple Farik had gone missing during a mission. If I were the president of Fighting Association, I'd chose to challenge them at first instance as well. Not to mention someone had just challenged the Southern 12 Gates and injured Fei Beiyun. Indeed, when strengths are equal, the deciding factor for victory is the status. Combined with getting challengers previously, the Fighting Association's president is a wise man. Relexia nodded in agreement. Now that their master was injured, of the two backbones, senior disciple defected, second senior disciple had gone missing, the White Cloud Gate is over. I heard that Rosetta is affiliated with Behemoth Gate. I'm not sure, but not only the White Cloud Gate but also the Southern 12 Gates will all take a toll. Crimson Sand Sword's master shook his head. At this time, the green-haired man stood with his hands in the back and watched as Simon was carried down. So much for the formidable Southern 12 Gates. The masters can't beat ours, disciples are all worthless too. This had caused commotion and noises around the platform. The disciples of Southern 12 Gates gathered together, surrounding Fei Beiyun and 11 other masters. Some of them were unconscious, some were bleeding, some had their arms broken, they were all injured at different levels. The disciples, hearing what the young man said, though very angry, dared not to speak up. Some other sects had already stepped away from these 12 gates. A red-haired man was about to rush onto the platform but was stopped by his companions. Don't, you are no match for him. Fei Beiyun's face was pale like a sheet of paper. He slumped in a chair. Simon was taking care of him, bearing the pain from a broken arm. See, Simon, go find your senior brother. Tell him to get everyone out of here. His head was injured. He held on to the last bit of consciousness and ordered. Master, senior brother can definitely beat that guy. Simon gritted his teeth and said. Those challengers are not what I'm afraid of. They weren't heavy-handed with us, and we can recover if we get back. The true danger is our enemies. Fei Beiyun pushed Simon with his shaky hands. The Southern 12 Gates have too many enemies. this is not our territory, we must get back now. You are right, Simon, we must go back now and scatter out in different directions. A disciple of the Southern 12 Gates answered with a worried expression. My master told me to bring you a word. What is it? Simon raised his head and urged him to go on. Someone might use extreme measures against us. My master warned Master Fei to be careful. At this time, it's every man for himself. The disciple hurried out after these words, and only then Simon realized the disciple had a black backpack in his hand. At this moment, Simon felt his mind was chaotic. Senior sister Rosetta defected, second senior brother was still missing, and now master was injured as well. Senior brother Garen was nowhere to be found either. How great would it be if senior brother Garen was here? He thought to himself. Suddenly, a few silhouettes walked in from the entrance. Leading the group was a tall and young man with a sturdy build with wine-red eyes, wearing a white martial arts training uniform. It's senior brother Garen. Senior brother Garen is here. Senior brother Garen. The Southern 12 Gates disciples suddenly found someone they could depend on. The surprised cheers gradually spread over the crowd of disciples. Master. Garen immediately saw Fei Beiyun after entering the platform, lying in an armchair. Garen's expression changed and he rushed to his master's side. Master, how do you feel? Are you hurt? Get out of here, take everyone and leave. Fei Beiyun let out a relieved sigh after finally seeing Garen, his expression relaxed a little. Garen checked Fei Beiyun's pulse and breathing. Everything was normal, so he wasn't seriously injured. He was only having a hard time speaking due to concussion, thus Garen felt relieved. Is that who they call the strongest among the Southern 12 Gates, senior brother Garen? The green-haired young man on the stage shouted abruptly. Looks like the Southern 12 Gates had put all of their hopes on you. Do you dare come up and challenge me? Garen stood up, glancing at the surrounding crowd. The Southern 12 Gates disciples all had their eyes on him, along with that Margant he had defeated and a few other masters who were still conscious. Garen sneered and jittered his shoulders, then jumped onto the stage. You are digging your own grave. His expression was ruthless, his eyes became even redder. He was feeling down from his defeat earlier, so his anger erupted like a volcano. You sure talk big, the green-haired young man mocked and dashed forward, instantly closing in on Garen. Boom boom. The two traded dozens of blows in seconds, the sound of their fists and elbows clashing filled the platform. Pung. The young man's face turned pale and he stuttered a few steps back while clenching his chest, unable to catch his breath. Garen suddenly jumped back, and his whole body came to a stop. He stretched his two hands out like he was holding two invisible spheres. A manic and hot stream came out of his body, caused by his rapidly increasing skin temperature. As his eyes turned increasingly red, his deep breath echoed like the calls of a mammoth. He looked like a suppressed bomb, waiting to explode. A man with similar green hair sitting below the platform jumped on it and quickly charged toward Garen. The masters of the other sects all had grim faces. The masters of Celestial Star Gate and Crimson Sand Sword both leaned forward in shock. Suddenly, the master of Crimson Sand Sword remembered something. If he was already surprised before, now he couldn't close his mouth. Kaboom! A loud noise came from the stage. Along with it came the scattered pieces of someone's clothes. Garen's muscles fiercely inflated and he stood there like a powerful creature from ancient history. His body towering over 2 meters looked overwhelming. His cold red eyes stared at the green-haired men. Master is out to protect his worthless disciple. The green-haired man held his unconscious disciple in his arms, but he was knocked back 10 steps. His clothes were falling apart. He was out of breath and could not speak a word. When he opened his mouth to speak, he spurted a mouthful of blood and bent down on the ground. Fine, nice, okay. Garen of White Cloud Gate, I'll remember this, and you will pay for it someday. He let out a sad smile and quickly ran into the crowd with his disciple. He was fast like a swallow flying in the rain. Garen's glanced around the platform, turned back and jumped off. Pack your stuff, we're getting out of here. Yes, senior brother, Colin and the others answered. One of them supported Simon while Garen scooped up his master, and they all left through the exit. His body had not fully recovered yet, so he couldn't keep on fighting. Otherwise he would have tried to force the green-haired master and disciple to stay. Just as they stepped out, a stream of blood came out of Garen's mouth. Senior brother. Colin saw this and came up to try to support him, but Garen raised his hand to stop her. We must leave now. If the words were true, we are in great danger. This place isn't safe. Garen picked up his pace and walked on. The group followed behind him. There were a dozen disciples from other sects behind them as well. Why are you following us? Garen asked with a deep voice. We are headed for the same direction as you. Could senior brother Garen protect us on the way back? A silver-haired young man stood out and begged. A few disciples behind him were supporting two elders who were unconscious. They were in the same boat with White Cloud Gate. Follow up then. Protecting 4 or 14 men was all the same, so Garen thought he might as well help these people in need. My name is Rampas, I'm going to represent my gate. The silver-haired youngster introduced himself. Garen nodded mutely. The men packed their belongings and asked Celestial Star Gate if they could borrow their cars. The Celestial Star Gate wanted to stay neutral and out of this mess, so they refused the request. Inside the parking lot, Garen and the group stood together, staring down at the Celestial Star Gate disciples. The leader of those disciples was a blue-haired man wearing a black suit. His arms were exposed and a black cross was tattooed on his right arm. I'm Tenstar Ni. Master gave us orders. No one is to borrow our cars at this moment, so please leave us. The man crossed his arms and drawled. We were invited to join this exchange, but now that we are in trouble you wouldn't even let us use your cars. Colin was so mad he couldn't speak. I'm just following orders. It's not just you guys, the other southern 12 gates are not allowed to borrow our cars either. Senior brother has already gone to the other side. Tenstar Ni lowered his hands and clenched his fists. With senior brother here, even your masters dare not make a move. Why don't you give up now, turn around and walk back to where you came? The Celestial Star Gate disciples behind him had no expression on their faces.